Hello, I'm Ollie. This is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, I'm going to do my December TBR. So, usual format. I will talk through the books I'm going to be reading, give my thoughts on them going into them, and report back at the beginning of January and let you know how I got on. I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Right, so I've got 20 books here. I read 21 books in November. I've got a bit of time off in December for Christmas and things like that. So I think 21 doesn't feel impossible. And I've actually, so it's the 4th of December now, I've actually read 1.5 books already. So anyway, let's go through them. I will do them in the crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing order. So first up, crime. So Dead City by Shane Stevens, which actually is one I finished. So I started this at the beginning of the month, or actually started at the end of November, and I've now finished it. Just an incredibly bleak mob novel, which is one of the most horrible things I've ever read. So I'm going to do a video review of that one. Next up, Captain Blood by Michael Blodgett, which is a kind of revenge novel. I'm pretty sure I read this years and years ago. I certainly used to have a copy of it. I remember the cover vividly. It's supposed to be really gritty and quite chilling. I'll read the back to you because it's great. Warning, this is high tension material. Touch and you will not be able to let go. Stripped of all conventional moral insulation, the bare wires of the story will fuse onto the nerve ends, then shock and stun with an electric charge that burns to the bone. Power is on. So that sounds pretty gripping. What I've tried to do is, because obviously I'm doing this 100 book challenge at the moment, so there are a number of books in here which I think I will read very, very quickly, but there's also some bigger ones, so I'm trying to balance things out and not be too unfair in terms of, I don't just want to read 100 novellas. Next up, and this is the one I'm reading at the moment, is Night Kill, which is an executioner book. So if you've been watching the channel, you know that I'm reading the executioner books in order from the first one. I'm up to book 6. Yeah, so I've just finished book 6 in November. This is actually book 124, but the premise for this one was so fantastic, I wanted to read it straight away. So again, let me read you the back. Suspicions about the existence of a nationwide satanic mafia which deals in drugs, pornography and contract killings are growing. The atrocities committed by psychopaths and serial killers are being linked to these devil worshippers, but so far no hard evidence exists to indict the cult. The executioner is asked to find some. Mac Bolan follows a grisly trail of human sacrifices left in the wake of a touring heavy metal rock band rumoured to be involved in the black arts. In his lifelong crusade against evil, Bolan has spread some hellfire of his own. His magnum thunder is loud enough to wake the dead. So this is a series of books about one guy waging a war against crime, basically. This one was published in, let's see when it was, 89. So it's kind of at the height of the satanic panic in the US. And it's the executioner against Satanists, which just sounds fantastic. And I have to say, I'm about 60 pages in, excuse me, about 60 pages in, and it's actually quite well written so far. I'm enjoying it a lot. So more pulp stuff. So we've got, so obviously there's a few series that I'm reading through book by book. So as I said, doing the Executioner series, and I've got book 7 in the Executioner series, Nightmare in New York, which is, well, it says on the front, Mac Bolan, the mafia's judge, jury and executioner, moves his war into the slick Manhattan jungle. So that looks like it will be fun. I've also got the 11th of the Edge books, so a series of brutal 70s westerns about a half Mexican, half Swedish loner, basically, who stumbles around America trying to survive. So this one is Sioux Uprising. So we'll see how that one is. I've got the second of the survivalist books. So the first one, which I talked about in my November wrap up, very much about the nuclear war that leads to the like a post-apocalyptic America that the rest of the books are set in. So interested to see what happens in this one. Fantastic pulpy cover, as always with the Executioner books. I've also got book 4 of the Gore novels by John Norman. So series of kind of pulp fantasy novels with a fairly horrible political views on the kind of gender politics and things like that. But they're quite fun pulp novels. Phoenix Ground Zero, so the second of the Phoenix novels. So I did a video review of the first one, which is just absolutely bonkers. This one I believe is just as bonkers, so just insane, over the top violence, expected and appreciated. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one very much. So that's the pulp ones out of the way. So I've gone through those fairly quickly because they're small pulp novels and not particularly they don't require a great deal of discussion, shall we say. So moving on to one of their slightly thicker books, so Island by Richard Lehman. So as I've said before, I read a load of Lehman as a kind of teenager, and quite enjoyed his books, but then as I got older and a bit more mature in my outlook, decided that he was probably a bit immature in his outlook, and that I didn't really like some of his views so much. But recently I've been getting into Lehman again, and appreciating him for what he is, which is quite an entertaining writer of pulpy horror, with some views that you need to take with a pinch of salt. So anyway, Island is the book that I remember being most offended by, in terms of its kind of misogyny. So I'm interested to read this one again. It's been good 2.5 decades since I read it. So interested to read it again and see what I think of it. It's about some people getting shipwrecked on an island, basically, and what they have to do to survive. Next up, so I'll make no apologies. This isn't actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to count this towards my 100 book challenge or not, but I'm going to because I paid for it. So this is actually my son's book. It's one of the Goosebumps books. I've never read a Goosebumps book. I know that Monster Blood, who's a great YouTuber if you like, kind of R.R. Stein and the Goosebumps, various Goosebumps series. I'll put a link to his channel in. He says, and he's an absolute expert on Goosebumps, so he says this is not a great one, but it's the one I've got. So I'm going to read it on the basis that it's only just over 100 pages, and the print is massive. So I reckon I can probably read that in a couple of hours. I'm cheating a bit, but hey. Next up, The Children God Forgot. So this was in my Abominable Book Club box for November. I'm awaiting the December one. It may even arrive today, so I'll do an unboxing video when that gets here. But this sounds creepy and really quite interesting. So let me read you the back of this one. A young woman is rushed to hospital with stabbing pains in her stomach. The chief surgeon delivers a living child with the face of an angel and the body of a tentacled monster. Engineer Gemma is plunged into darkness in a tunnel beneath London. Before she escapes, a strange green light illuminates a cluster of ghostly figures. Gemma is certain they were children. DC Jerry Pardo and DC Jamila Patel of Tooting Police have investigated the occult before, but nowhere as horrible as the city sewers. Down here in the dark, where the dead come back to life, witchcraft is the only force strong enough to save you. So yeah, I quite like Graham Marston, what I've read by him, which is a few of his earlier books. So yeah, looking forward to reading that one. It looks like a fun read. Next up, Dearest by Peter Lockram, which I think has got such a fantastically horrible cover. I'm very much looking forward to reading this. This looks like it's actually a pre-release copy. I don't know if it's like a proof copy or something like that, but I read and reviewed on the channel his book The Third Beast a while ago, which was a kind of crime revenge novel, which I thought was excellent. So yeah, I'm interested to see what his horror novel, or one of his horror novels, is like. Let me read you the blurb. He's an ordinary cab driver with some very definite ideas about women. It's just that no real live woman, who, however much he may love her, can live up to his expectations. When he meets Jackie, when she begins to carry his unborn child, when he gives her a ring and the prospect of marriage, her actions make him nervous and he must take certain steps to preserve her and their relationship permanently. Dearest, a story that out-psychos Psycho, is by a master storyteller whose narrative grabs the reader like a longshoreman's grappling hook and doesn't let go till the very last page. So yeah, we shall see if I feel like I've been grabbed by a longshoreman's grappling hook when I read that. But yeah, looking forward to that. Next up, The Master by Guy and Smith. So this is another one that's very short, and I don't think it will take me very long to read. It's only a couple of 100 pages. So I'm going to be doing a buddy read of this with Juan from Plagued by Visions. I think it's his first Guy and Smith book. So I'd be interested to see what he thinks of Guy and Smith, who I think is a complete hack, but can be quite entertaining. I'm quite a fan of the Crabs books, if not necessarily so much his other work. So this is a 1988 book. Juan wanted to read it because somebody in the comments on one of his most disturbing videos on his channel, which is obviously the thing his channel is famous for, they called this out as a very disturbing book. So interested to see what that's like. And then the final horror, so this is again trying to rebalance the short against the long. So Swan Song by Robert R. McCammon, which is 956 pages, so definitely a mammoth. So I read this as a teenager and loved it. I preferred it to The Stand at the time, so I'm interested to see. Oh, I just noticed it's got a forgotten bookmark in it, which is really cute. I love it when you find these in secondhand books. It says, "Book for you to read and keep. Hope you enjoy it. Also, one debt discharged." So I don't know if there's two friends who were trading and recommending books to each other. I have to say, it feels like this is a 30-year-old copy of this book. I think 1987, so it's 35 years old. The spine is completely uncreased, and this bookmark was at page 36. So I think, unfortunately, the recipient didn't enjoy it, but hopefully I will on my reread of it. So that's the horrors done. Moving on to that kind of thing. So other things. So a couple that were on my November TBR that I didn't manage to get to because I ended up chucking a load of extra Kindle books into that. Because I was testing my new Kindle. So Trial by Battle by David Piper, which is a Second World War novel that was written in the 50s, so kind of quite contemporary to the actual war. Part of this series, the Imperial War Museum in the UK are doing of like reprinting and rediscovering contemporary war novels. So again, it's quite short, but yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that. I think that sounds quite interesting. And then the other one that I didn't read in November, which in theory I should have, is from those wonderful folks who gave you Pearl Harbor, which is obviously the book that the TV series Mad Men was based on. So a famous non-fiction book about the advertising industry. So this is for my my kind of worky book club that I'm part of. We decided in the end that a few people were kind of getting a bit behind, so we decided to bin off November as a month, give everyone a break. So this is now our December book. What else have we got? Okay, so a few more and then I'm done. So Bring the Jubilee by Ward Moore, which is a book my dad lent me, which he said was great, which is a kind of alternative history book about the American Civil War. So yeah, looking forward to reading that. I think it looks quite interesting, and isn't that a fantastic kind of 60s, early 70s sci-fi cover. Next up, The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien, of course. So I've never read the Lord of the Rings books. I read The Hobbit when I was at school, but I've never read the Lord of the Rings. So I'm going to try and read those over the next few months. I've got all of them. So yeah, we'll see how I get on with that one. Another big book here. So Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. So first of the trilogy, her trilogy of books about Oliver Cromwell. I've got all three of them. Haven't read any of them, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing this 100 book challenge. So obviously this is a much loved book. Won the Man Booker Prize, as did I think the second book in the series, and people seem to really rave about this one. I know that AJ Dunn Reads and Writes has been doing a read through as part of a group read of these books, and he is a big fan of them. So yeah, looking forward to reading this, albeit it is quite long, so whether I get through it in the month or not, we shall see. And then finally, but yeah, it'll be quite nice to add to my other series that I'm reading, my trash series that I'm reading it would be quite nice to add something a bit more literary. So maybe if I do enjoy this, I'll try and read the other 2 books in subsequent months. And then finally, another literary trilogy, so the Border trilogy by Cormac McCarthy. So I came to get this book because I was trying to build up my collection of executioner novels, and I kept on ordering. I'm trying to remember which one it was. It might have been Nightmare in New York, actually. I kept on trying to order that book, and people, this eBay seller, it's one of those places, you know, like a charity that's got millions of books listed. They kept on sending me Boston Blitz instead. Actually, it wasn't Nightmare in New York, it was the Caribbean one, I think. Anyway, they kept on sending me copies of Boston Blitz instead. And I kept on saying to them, this is the wrong book. Can you send me the right one? And I've ended up with 3 copies of Boston Blitz. Anyway, they refunded one of them and offered to send me an alternative for one of the other duplicates. So this was the same price in their listings. And obviously, I've heard fantastic things about it. I've read The Road by Cormac McCarthy, but that's the only book of his I've read. So this trilogy has All the Pretty Horses, The Crossing and Cities of the Plain, all of which are supposed to be brilliant. And I think at least one of those has featured in one of Juan's Most Disturbing Books videos. So yeah, I'm not proposing to read all 3 of them, but I will probably read the first one in December. And then again, Night Will Fall, maybe I'll try and read one in January and one in February if I enjoy them. So I think I've got a reasonably varied bunch here. Obviously, it's more weighted toward crime, pulp, horror, and particularly pulp and horror this month. But I've got some what my mum will call proper books in there as well. So we shall see how I get on. I will report back at the beginning of January. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Keep safe, wear a mask, get a vaccine, all that good stuff. And yeah, I will speak to you again soon. Cheerio.